Hello, pre-algebra students. Today we're covering section 2.1, integers and absolute value. Let's take a look at our learning objectives for today. Today we're going to locate positive and negative numbers on the number line. We're going to order positive and negative numbers. We're going to find opposites. We're going to simplify expressions with absolute value. And we're going to translate word phrases to expressions with integers. Let's start with negative numbers. A negative number is a number that is less than 0. You can see numbers like that on the thermometer below sea level. And then you can have above sea level for positive numbers. But right here you can see there's a negative 20. So the temperature is negative 20 degrees. And the Dead Sea is negative 1,302 feet below sea level. An integer is any number from the set ... negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, where ... means continues indefinitely. So basically from negative infinity to positive infinity. But an integer is a whole number and their opposites, including 0. Okay, you can see that on this number line. We have negative numbers, 0, and we have positive numbers. Those are the integers. For example 1, write integers for real-world situations. A loss of 8 yards is negative 8. And for example 1b, a deposit of $15 is a positive 15. In example 2, we're asked to order each of the following pairs of numbers using less than or greater than. Okay, so I want us to take a note of that. This symbol we read as less than, and this symbol we read as greater than. And the way that I remember these is that less than starts with a little point, and greater than starts with a big opening of 2 points. All right, so which one is greater? For 14 and 6. 14 is greater than 6, so we would use the greater than. Negative 1 is less than 9, so we use the less than. Now, for negative 1 and negative 4, we have to think about the number line. Negative 1 is closer to the positive numbers than negative 4. So when I'm looking at the number line above, or I could just draw another one. Here's 0. Here's negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, and negative 4. So it kind of goes past that. Negative 4 is less than negative 1. And so negative 1 is greater than negative 4. You can think of it like this. Would you rather owe somebody $1 or would you rather owe somebody $4? So $4 is more negative, so it's a lesser number than negative 1. Okay, so less and greater. Negative 1 is greater and negative 4 is lesser. All right. 2, that one's easy, is greater than negative 20 because 2 is a positive number and it's more to the right on the number line. Right? So if we have 0 here and we have negative 20 here and we have positive 2 here, this is more positive, this is negative, so 2 is more than negative 20. All right, get ready to turn your page. Because the numbers 2 and negative 2 are the same distance from 0, they are called opposites. So that's what opposites are, the positive and the negative of that number. And then here's a picture of 3 and negative 3. They're both 3 spaces away from 0, and so they are opposites. On example 3, we're talking about weather. The recorded highs in degrees Celsius in Niagara Falls from February 21st through 28th of a recent year are 4, 2, 3, -6, -5, -1, 0, and 1. Order the temperatures from greatest to least. Okay, so the positive numbers are going to be more than the negative numbers, right? So 4 and then 3, 2, 1, 0. I'm just going to check these off. So we did 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0. And then the next would be -1, because that's less negative. So that means if it's less negative, then it's more positive. And we have -5, and then we have -6. That's how we order them. And then we could also have drawn a number line. So let's draw a number line. Here's 0. On the number line, I can go in the positive direction. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I can go in the negative direction. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7. Then I'm going to plot those points. I have 4. I have 2. I have 3. We had -6, -5, -1, 0, and 1. Now you can see they asked us to write it in descending order. So that's why we wrote it from 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, -1, -5, and -6. So drawing a number line can help us order numbers. I want you to draw a number line for 3A. Bethany and her friends played a question and answer video game. Their scores at the end of the game were 1, -5, 0, -1, 2, and 4. Order them this time from least to greatest. So in your groups, I want you to draw a number line and then order them from least to greatest. There's a little note that I would like to make with you for subtracting symbols and negative symbols. If the symbol is between two numbers, that symbol means subtract. Or subtraction. And we would read that as 10 minus 4. If the symbol is in front of the number, the symbol means negative. So we would read this one as -8. Then in front of a variable, the symbol means opposite. So we would read this as opposite x. If we have a negative inside parentheses, we read it as -2. And if it's on the outside of the parentheses, it means opposite. So the way we read this is the opposite of -2. So it's important to be able to read minuses and negatives when we're dealing with integers. Here's a key concept about absolute value. So now we're moving on to this concept of absolute value. The absolute value of a number is the distance the number is from 0 on the number line. And you can remember that distances are always positive, right? Like you can't go a negative distance. You can go backwards, but it's not negative. The absolute value of a number is always greater than or equal to 0. So what they're saying is it's always positive. Example says absolute value of 6, and what's the absolute value of negative 6? So both are equal to 6. Okay, so you can see that on the number line. And then in symbols, it looks like this. Little bars, that is read as absolute value. The absolute value of 6 is 6. The absolute value of negative 6 is also 6. When you're ready, turn your page. Let's do these examples and then we'll practice with all of these examples. We'll have plenty of time to practice with our friends. All right. What is the absolute value of x when x is equal to negative 17? So what we do is we plug in negative 17 where the x was. That is equal to positive 17. The absolute value of negative y when y is negative 39. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is if it's a negative, well, what that means is the opposite of negative 39. The opposite of negative 39 is positive 39. And the absolute value of that is just 39. All right. Then for C, we have negative m, but m is 22, absolute value. So the negative absolute value of 22, the absolute value of 22 is 22, but since it's the opposite, we have to put a negative because the negative was in front of the absolute values. Okay, so that one's very important that you see that even though we took the absolute value and got positive 22, the negative in front changed it to the opposite, which is negative. Same thing on this next one. We have a negative, and then we have the absolute value, but p is negative 11. So the absolute value of negative 11 is 11, but the negative in front means the opposite. So this negative in front made the answer negative because it was not inside the absolute value. All right, so here's your challenge. You have 10 questions to practice. Some of them involve order of operations. So I'm going to let you guys work on this in your groups and then we will go over it. Let's write a summary because we learned a lot of things today. So what were 2 things that we learned in the notes today? Write that in your summary. You can make it 1 sentence and then you can share your sentence with somebody in your group. Then we'll set up our homework paper.